Hi, I'm Caroline, and I've created a lot of things, but mostly I've created a life I love. Join me on my journey as a podcaster, business owner, and mom as I try to create all the things. Welcome to the Caroline Creates podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Caroline Creates podcast. I'm Caroline, your host, the creator of podcasts. Today I wanted to talk about what I learned from launching my own podcast. We have been talking about launching the past few episodes, and I thought a trip down memory lane would be super fun, especially since last week, I'm celebrating. What day is it? What time is it? I have no idea. This is what happens when you're a business owner and a mom. You just lose track of days and times. Anywho, we are gearing up to celebrate the 100th episode of our podcast, Creative Biz Rebellion. And I am so excited. It seems like a miracle and just such a blessing that we've made it to 100 episodes. A lot of people tend to give up pretty quickly. I think podcasting is really hard. You don't get immediate return in numbers and dollars. And so it can be hard to keep going when you feel like, nobody out there is listening. But people are listening, and it's really important to remember that even if you're only reaching 10 people, that's still 10 people whose lives you're touching. And if that was the mission of your podcast, then mission accomplished. So anyways, when we launched our podcast, it was such a flurry of work and excitement. It was like all the stars aligned, and we were so excited to be working together and coming up with this. And it's funny, I remember it took us forever to come up with a name because it was not the easiest thing to figure out. But there were a few things that we really did right with the launch of our podcast, and they are things that I have really tried to drive home to my clients and people that I'm helping launch their podcasts. And I can't take all the credit for these things. Definitely my co-host had a lot of these great ideas, and she's amazing, and she's really good at marketing and that kind of thing. And so she was kind of on top of it when it came to that stuff. But we knew that, we wanted to launch and really make it something special. I think sometimes it's really easy to just throw your podcast up on iTunes and not celebrate, and you need to celebrate. It's a lot of work to get a podcast launched and then to keep going, of course. But it needs to be a celebration. It needs to be something that generates excitement. We set up our social media account and did kind of like a, coming soon type situation. We started following people that we thought would be interested, telling some of our close friends in the industry what we were working on. It was kind of like dropping little trails here and there, come here, see this. I mean, we started with nothing. We didn't have a social media following. We had just met and came up with this idea and started it. So we were literally starting from scratch. So think about how that had to have felt. Obviously, it would have been so much better if we'd already had followers, but we didn't. And so we decided, hey, we're going to start teasing this and seeing if we can get people excited. So that was the first thing that we did that I really felt like was useful for us. We also started right away with having a website, having solid branding, and having that all ready to go for the launch day. We knew that capturing emails was going to be something that was important to us. We didn't know what we were going to use them for. We didn't know what was going to happen in the future, but we knew it was something we wanted to do. We had to have a place for people to go, for us to refer them to. And so we set up a website on WordPress. It wasn't terribly expensive. We just had to pay for the hosting of the website. And I think I bought a theme and built the website myself and got it ready to go. Really easy. The other thing that we did was, I'm pretty sure that we published more than one episode the week of the launch. Now, since then, I've kind of learned that people tend to want to publish 2 to 3 episodes when they launch, sometimes 4, as a way to kind of drum up excitement and get people really excited about listening and get some downloads going. It's also a really good way to ask for reviews, that kind of thing. So we did that, and that was really, really, really useful for us and helpful. And people really loved what we put out there right away. So we knew that what we were doing was good. We knew that we were onto something, right? Which is really motivating because you work so hard to get your podcast launched, and then you launch it, and it can feel like crickets. And let me tell you, I mean, there wasn't hundreds of people knocking down our door to listen to our podcast when we started. So that brings me to the next thing we did that was really, 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 really good. We made a list of people that we thought would be really good supporters of the podcast. So these were friends that we had in the industry. These were people that we followed on Instagram that we were also friends with. These were people that maybe we've worked with in the past, friends and family. We made this huge list, and we asked everybody. We sent them an email and said, hey, we are launching this podcast. Here's what it's about. We're super excited. Do you mind sharing it with your audience? Here's some graphics that you can use, etc. And then what we did is everybody who shared, we sent them a thank you, like in the mail, an actual thank you, and just thank them. And doing that, I think, was one of the most beneficial things we could have done. And it's super, super scary to ask people to share your new endeavor with the world. I mean, because it seems like I'm an introvert. I'm an INFJ. I know I've talked about that on this podcast before. But like the last thing I want is a lot of attention. And so that was definitely a lot for me, was seeing the numbers go up, seeing people come and follow us on social media and going, oh, geez, people are actually listening to this. Holy moly. Which is not a bad thing by any means, but it sure did feel like it. It was scary. It was definitely like a leap into the unknown. And I can't thank enough the people who shared our podcast that week that we launched, because it really did help and help build excitement, which is what it's all about. The other thing that we did, and I don't remember if we did this right on the launch or if we did this a little bit later. I think we did it right at the launch, but we knew that our podcast is very specific to a certain group of people. And so we knew that building community would be really important to these people, and being part of a community would be important. And it was something that we kind of wanted to do to kind of foster a relationship with our listeners outside of the podcast. And so we started a Facebook group. We have a Facebook group, and it's grown so much from its humble beginnings. But that Facebook group has been terrific, and it's such a great place to, again, connect with our listeners further, but then also get them excited for other things that we've got going on. So yeah, those are some of the things that we did during our launch that really, really made a difference. Now, I didn't do all those same things with this podcast because this podcast was different. I wasn't really looking to get a ton of downloads or have this be this huge endeavor, not right now anyways. For me, this was really an extension of my blog. This was a way for me to share information about a topic that I'm passionate about. And so I launched this podcast with a welcome episode and then a regular episode the week of the launch. I already had an email list and social media, so I shared to those places. And then I have just been really diligent about making sure that I share with the world when a new episode goes live. And it's grown slowly, and that's totally fine. That's what I want. This is really for, my clients and people who are definitely interested in working with me or interested in what I have to say. Again, I'm not looking for a huge following here, but what I love about this is that I have been able to use this on my website, on my blog, refer to it and other things, link to it. So it's been really, really helpful in that way. So I definitely launched a lot smaller with this podcast than I did my other podcasts. And I think it's interesting because upon reflection, like obviously I wish that I had had more time with this podcast. I was very rushed with the launch. It was something that I had been putting off. And so I just kind of threw it out into the world, which I totally, am all about. Sometimes you just have to put it out there, right? Well, so what I'm thinking about doing, this is something that I'm kind of thinking about and leaning in towards, is that I'm about to end season 1. I think we've got 2 more episodes after this one, and then I'm going to take a break. And when I come back for season 2, that's a really good time for me to do like a relaunch, right? So I do have an episode about seasons and why you might be interested in them. And I kind of talk about this a little bit, but you can almost use that time between seasons to plan the next season, but also plan what the launch is going to look like when you come back for season 2 or season 3 or whatever, or how you can make that special or unique. So that's definitely something I'm going to be exploring and looking at with this podcast and thinking about how I can make that launch a little bit better. Maybe drum up some more excitement than I did before, not be afraid to put myself out there more than I did before. Launching can be really, really scary, but I really want to encourage you guys. I really think it's one of those kind of hurdles you just have to get over, and then it just becomes gravy after that and routine. And I know that if you were interested in podcasting and you like recording, once you get to go over that launch hurdle, it feels so good. The flow is so good and you will enjoy it. If you need help launching, I've got all kinds of goodies for you. I have a free podcast launch checklist that you can get by signing up for my newsletter, which is called From the Microphone. It's a monthly newsletter that I send out. I also am running my 5-day podcast launch challenge, which is an email challenge. You get an email every day for 5 days that gives you some actionable items to get ready to launch your podcast. And then if you need help even further, but still want to DIY, I have my mini launch guide e-course, which you can find at carolincreates.com. And then if you need even more help and you want somebody at the helm of your launch, I do have some podcast launch services, and we do have some availability for clients in the new year, and we'd be happy to help you do that. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'm super excited about the next 2 episodes and what we're going to be talking about. And yeah, have a great weekend, everybody, and we will talk soon. Before you go, please head to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. I would love to hear from you. And to learn more about me and follow along my journey, head to www.carolinecreates.com. There you can also listen to episodes, watch YouTube videos, and find out more about my podcasting services. Thanks so much. Have a great day.